What's up, y'all? I'm back. Like I told y'all, I'm gonna be more consistent, so we're back again with another video. And this one has been highly requested for like quite some time. Now, if you're like an OG supporter, you've definitely seen me do this before. I'll put it here or here just so y'all can see the growth. Okay, in the name of growth. But we're redoing it because it's 2023 now. Well, really it's about to be 2024, y'all. It's 2023 now, so I feel like we need to redo it. We need to have an updated, you know what I mean? We need updated tips, we need an updated vibe. And I've learned more now. So not only we're going off education, again, we're also going off of experience because that matters, period. So as you can see, today's topic is how to get through a breakup, the ending of a situationship, somebody you just had a crush on, whatever it is. At the end of the day, we're not here to talk about the different degrees. All of it hurt, okay? I know. So we're gonna talk about all of it. At the end of the day, it's still like relationship grief. And a lot of times, honestly, let's start here, boom. A lot of times, even if you weren't in a relationship, it's kind of like you're grieving the idea of what you thought it was. Now, oftentimes, also in a relationship, when it ends, you're grieving the potential of what you thought it was gonna be or the fairy tale of what it was gonna be. And I think that is like the best start of grieving, is to understand you probably created a version of them in your head, and that's who you were in love with, or that's who your crush was on, or X, Y, and Z. And when it didn't match up, the disappointment in the middle is what you're feeling now. But that's okay. It's okay to understand, you know, at the end of the day, that is not who this person is. That was the idea of them that I had in my head. But realistically, if I can imagine it, it exists, period. But at the end of the day, if you're thinking to yourself like, oh, you know, I just thought he was gonna do this, this, and this, or, you know, I thought he was gonna be this knight in shining armor, there is one. It just wasn't him, and that's fine. They're not meant to be in your journey any longer. Like I always say, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and none of them is better than the other. Someone may be in your life for a lifetime, and they may never teach you the lessons that the person that came into your life for a season taught you. Things that you learn from others are the things that you take throughout your lifetime. And so instead of looking at this as a loss, you have to look at it as a gain. Like, okay, what did I gain from this relationship? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about others? What did I learn about my needs? Like, it's never really a loss. Realistically, if you reflect on all your relationships, that goes for friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships, there's always something that you're learning about not only others, but yourself. So for example, you may now know, I don't like when my man does this, but I do love when my man does this. Perfect. Now when you move forward in the dating scene, when people start showing the red flags of the things that you know you don't like, we can remove them. 1, 2, 3, quick and easy. When people start showing the green flags of the thing that you like, great, you can move forward. And so what loss did you really have? You really just lost the idea of what you thought it was gonna be. But typically the things that we think it's going to be, or the things that we think we want, are not the things that we need, or not the things that serve us the most. Like, I'm sure you can probably think about a time in your life where like you wanted something to work out so bad, or you wanted this job so bad, or this whatever so bad, and it didn't work out, and like, thank God. Let's say you're on your second or third relationship, or whatever it is, right? You probably wanted that first one to work out so bad. You wouldn't have ever had these other experiences had you got your way, had you got what you wanted. It's also about accepting and embracing the fact that what we want is not always what we need. And sometimes we be wrong, child. Sometimes we be wrong. We be thinking like, oh my God, I want this to happen because this is what's best for me. Do you really know what's best for you? Really, truly. Sometimes we don't know what's best for us, and that's okay. That's the beauty of life, the beauty of the unknown. That's another thing. I think it's like, we think we know better. Like, we think it's uncomfortable to be in the unknown. It's uncomfortable to not know, you know, what's next, to not know if it's gonna work out with this person, to not know this or not know that. But if you're able to switch your perspective into, that's a beautiful thing to not know. How boring would life be if we knew everything? If we knew every single step, if we knew every single person, if we knew how it ended, how boring would that be? Truly, I'd be bored. So realistically, enjoy the beauty of the unknown. And as someone with anxiety, that's very hard to do. So I understand that that's easier said than done, but the more you practice it, the simpler it becomes. Okay, another big thing is the thing that y'all don't be wanting to do, and it just be baffling me. Because why? A big thing that needs to happen if you want to get through a breakup, whatever you're dealing with right now, you have to remove all contact. That means no texting, no calling, no watching their Instagrams. Now, realistically, you need to block them. You need to block them, and not even just for like, oh, it's beef, just because for your own mental health, it's just like, I don't really want to be a part of that. Because when you try to do the whole like, oh, let's stay friends, oh, I'm gonna keep looking at your stuff, da 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 da, it gets messy, and it's very hard for like your healing process, especially if you're already struggling to heal. But if you don't want to go that far, at least mute them, mute their stories, mute their posts. Like, you don't need to be engaging. And honestly, something that's really helpful is like an accountability partner, whether that be one of your friends, a family member, whatever it is, so that you're checking in like, hey, let's make sure you're not, did you reach out to them today? You didn't, you know, look at their stories and stuff. Make sure you're accountable. If you can't hold yourself accountable, you have someone else to do that with you. Sometimes experiences like this can be very traumatic. It can also trigger some other trauma in your life, and so sometimes you may need extra support, whether that be a friend, a family, or even a professional. For me, I love therapy, baby. Therapy helps me through my day-to-day life. Therapy has saved my life, to be honest. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and accessible, which can be really difficult. It's definitely a tough process to find a therapist, especially if you're just limited to the options around you. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist so much easier because it's online and it's remote. By filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's super easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There is a link in my description box, betterhelp.com/Taty. Now, clicking that link, of course, helps support this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp to see if that therapist can help you in your journey. And because finding a therapist is a little bit like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is super common in finding a therapist, you can easily switch to another therapist for free without stressing about insurance or who's in your network or anything like that. And therapy has been such a lifesaver when going through things like this in my own life. So if you're struggling, I want you to consider BetterHelp. You can click the link in my description box. Again, it's betterhelp.com/Taty. Thank you again to BetterHelp for supporting this channel. Now let's get back to the video. A lot of times I think the difficulty with getting through a breakup, situationship, whatever it is detachment. That's what we struggle with, right? So it's like, oh my God, I'm so attached to this person. They are a part of me. And I think that's also where we struggle, because when you jump into a relationship without feeling whole in self, it ends up leaving room for someone else to fill that. And so when they leave, we feel empty again. And instead of us realizing, oh, I just wasn't whole on my own before, it feels like they are the only thing that can complete us, right? And that's not it. You just weren't whole on your own before, so they took the spot. And so fill it with yourself. All the things that you loved about the relationship, I hope you do realize you can give to yourself. For example, if you love that they gave you words of affirmation, you know you can speak to yourself, right? On my mirror now, I still have affirmations that I can say to myself every morning that I need to do more often, child, but that I can say to myself, you know, because at the end of the day, you are the best lover you can be to yourself. You are the best friend you can be to yourself. You have to start practicing it and acting like it. So give yourself words of affirmation if you love that about your relationship, or if it was affection that you loved in the relationship, give it to yourself. Go do yoga, go do dynamic stretching, go do things that involve you with your own body instead of needing a separate body. Does that make sense? Or if it was gifts, get yourself something nice at the end of every week. If it was acts of service, like whatever it is, you can give to you. And so the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll realize they was just a placeholder, baby. It was just a placeholder. And I've talked about this in my videos before. If you're like an OG supporter, I always talk about, like, you have to remember, especially as women, because we are so ingrained and raised and socialized to center men, right? We have to please the man. We have to make sure that they choose us, which is a whole nother topic, and we need a whole 30 minutes for that. We are centered around that, right? And so as men are centered around, you know, being successful and their careers and this and that, we are centered around being a successful wife. And so that's where we struggle, because then our existence becomes, am I pleasing my man? But once we decenter that, we can realize, am I pleasing myself? And the better that I am at pleasing myself, taking care of me, is the better I will be able to take care of others. So like I said before, if you can't do it for yourself right now, right? Like, let's say when you think about, you know what, I want to be better for me. I want to take care of myself because I want to love myself more. If that doesn't do it for you and that doesn't get you up, but you're still in your people-pleasing tendencies of like, I want to be the best person I can be for others, fine, use that. The only way you can be the best person for others is by being the best person to yourself. You have to fill your cup before you start pouring into others, before you have nothing left to pour. And beyond that, I've always discussed, as women, we have to remember our importance. We have to remember our value. We have to remember what we do bring to those around us, whether it's friends, family, and especially a partner. And remembering that, remember that you are the gift. okay? If it's Christmas and you're looking under the tree, you are what's inside the box, okay? And that never changes. That is what's the most valued. You could change the wrappers out, you could change the bows out, you could do all of this stuff, but you always will remain you. The gift never changes. And so you have to value the fact that you are so special, so unique, so one of one. You are the most exciting thing under the tree, okay? Always. Even if you don't feel like that, if you have to be a little delulu for a second, just do it. Like, sometimes, I know everybody's like, oh my God, this girl's delulu. Girl, sometimes you need to do it. Especially in a moment like this, sometimes you need to like tell yourself things that maybe you don't even believe yourself. Like, if you don't feel like you're that girl, just start telling yourself you're that girl every single day. And I bet you eventually you're gonna be like, maybe I am. You're gonna start feeling like that, but you have to tell yourself every day, because you are what you feed yourself, right? If you're constantly feeding yourself like, oh, I wasn't enough, especially in the realm of a breakup. Oh, I wasn't enough, I wasn't this, I wasn't that. You're gonna start to believe it. You are what you tell yourself. This comes into manifestation. This also just comes into the power of tongue. We are what we hear and we are what we see, right? So you always wanna put yourself in the highest of vibration, which is positive words towards yourself and others, optimism towards yourself, love towards yourself. And I've talked about this before. There's a very distinct difference between self-love and confidence. And I think people sometimes lump them together. In my opinion, you can be super confident but lack self-love, and that would look like, you know what, I always walk into the room with my head held high, I always keep my shoulders back, I love how I look, X, Y, and Z, but you may not have boundaries, but you may not show up for yourself the way that you said you would. That lacks self-love. You may be confident in your appearance, but at the end of the day, you may not fill yourself with self-love. And so just because somebody's confident doesn't mean they love themselves. Just because you love yourself doesn't mean you always have to feel confident. Just because you're having an off day doesn't mean you now no longer love yourself. That's not how that works. Self-love is knowing, even though I don't feel my prettiest today, I know I'm still worthy, because my worth is not based off of how confident I feel today. I am worthy because I am enough and because I love me. That's self-love, and that has nothing to do with confidence. And so when you're going through a situation like this, you don't have to feel confident. It might have broke some of your confidence. That's okay. As long as you remain in an energy of loving you, you will get through it. Self-love first, confidence second. Okay, let's swing back to the talk of detachment, because I want us to spend a little bit more time on that in different realms, because there's so many different chapters of detachment. So another chapter that I want to touch on, as much as we were talking about before, like detaching from the idea of what you thought it was going to be, right, of how you thought it was going to end up with this person, it's also really important to detach from the idea that you're writing the story. And as much as, you know, we have a lot of autonomy over our lives, things are going to unfold the way that they're going to unfold, and sometimes things fall apart for better things to fall together. And that doesn't even mean just relationship wise. Like, it doesn't mean like, oh, well, you broke up with this person so you could find this person, because I also believe in that. But I also believe in you broke up with this person so you could fall in love with yourself. Even beyond that, it's like, sometimes things fall apart so that things can fall together within you, or sometimes the table's got to be shaken up so that you can see things more clearly, right? Like, I think about this in like a puzzle, right? You know, if you had like, I don't even know, a 500-piece puzzle or something crazy like that, right? Of life. Sometimes you just can't find those two pieces that's supposed to go together. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I keep looking around this table of pieces and I can't seem to find the one that goes with this one, right? Sometimes if you mix the pieces up a little bit, they'll end up a lot closer together, and you'll see it like, oh, these two pieces are supposed to go together. Got it. You have to shake the table sometimes. You gotta shake it, because when you've been looking at the same thing for so long, sometimes you can't see what's right in front of you. And so embrace the table shaking, embrace the pieces moving, embrace things falling apart, because things are often falling together because of that. Maybe not in the area that you were focused on, but maybe there's an even more important area over here where now things are falling together, where that may leak onto all the other areas. Does that make sense? Also, it's really important to allow yourself to feel it. I know a lot of people try to do the whole like, oh, well, let me just hop under somebody else, or let me just hop outside and let me just da 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 da. You can do that all you want to, and eventually it's gonna hit you. Eventually you're gonna be in that bed by yourself and you're gonna cry. So I don't really know what, like, you can't run from that forever, because eventually it's gonna catch up to you every single time. You can't outrun your feelings. They are a part of you. They're what keep you going, to be honest. And so you have to face them. And I think a big thing that I myself have been embracing this past year is we have to remove the fear of emotions that don't seem desirable. And so what I mean by that is, you may be the type of person who's like, I always just want to be happy, right? But that's not realistic about what life is. And so if you were to begin to value sadness the same way you value happiness, you'd probably learn so much more about yourself. And so when I say that, I say allow yourself to feel sad because it will pass. I always try to say that, like, feelings are like clouds, right? So they're gonna pass. They're not always just gonna stay there. They're gonna pass, but you have to watch them pass. Does that make sense? If I were to look at a pattern of clouds, right? If I'm looking in the sky and then I just close my eyes for like 2 minutes and I open my eyes again, I'm not gonna know if the clouds moved or not, to be honest, because I didn't watch them pass. And so for you, you have to watch your feelings pass. You have to allow them to pass through you. You can't try to close your eyes about them. They're still gonna be there, still clouds, right? But at least you can see them passing if you watch them pass. If you allow your feelings to pass, they're going to go by you, okay? You're not, there's another example that I've always heard that I think is cool, where it's like your feelings are also kind of like a river, and like you're just watching the river flow. You have to watch it though, like you have to watch it flow. That's the beauty of rivers flowing. You're not in the river falling down the current. That's not what's happening. You're watching your feelings flow and express themselves and learn from them. I embrace my sadness, child. If I feel like crying, I'm gonna cry every single time, because it makes me feel like, okay, now what did I learn from that? I'm releasing something that clearly is happening within my body, and so why would I restrict it from doing whatever it feels like it needs to do? Embrace your sadness, girl. If you need to cry, cry it out. If you want to cry for a week, cry for a week, but allow yourself to see the beauty in it instead of dreading the fact that you're crying, because I think that makes the process more draining, to be like, oh my god, I'm crying again, versus, ooh, okay, this feeling has not passed yet, I'm gonna let it out again. Changing the perspective about what you're feeling allows you to feel it better, if that makes sense.
Y'all, I forgot to say bye. Bye.